Is it like directly you can apply on your LinkedIn or the Indeed website which you mentioned, get an interview, get the job?
The good thing about Ireland is that you don't need an exam. So US has an exam, for example, Australia has its own exam. So Ireland doesn't have its own exam. UK doesn't have its own exam, but you have to fill up a form. So there's an application process which goes kind of in depth in your profession, as core would be the main for allied health.
So it's direct, you can work here if you get the license.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do any masters or
No.
anything.
So that's
Okay.
the best part. Like I've seen many of them coming here for masters, thinking that they won't be able to come here if they don't have a master's or if they don't have a license. I have friends or I have colleagues as well who have applied directly from India. Like they did their graduation, they did their masters back home in India or maybe outside of Ireland. But in spite of having everything done outside of Ireland, it was possible for them to get a job sitting outside Ireland.
That's the main part.
Yeah.
You have to get
The
your
Koru.
Koru done.
You cannot practice here without a license. So once you have the core, you can straight away apply for jobs, and if they are happy with your online applications or the interviews online which they have, then they'll sponsor your visa for you. So you don't
Okay.
even need to depend on anyone, and
Right.
physiotherapy is on critical skills.
Okay. So
So
you can,
so
that
it's
would be
easy
easier
enough,
for
yeah.
getting a PR. I did my research that you have been to Olympics and you were training Indian Olympic boxing team.
Yeah.
So what was that experience? That's a very huge achievement.
So that was a really surprising. I mean, I didn't expect that to happen in my life in the
Okay.
first place. Like no one would.
Hi Oshin, welcome
Hi,
on this
Karan.
show, and it's good to have you.
I'm honored.
Cool. I have no expertise in physio, but that's why you're here to tell if anyone wants to pursue masters or move abroad as a physio. So what would be the steps and everything? But yeah, and then how was your journey? That would be all about it. So yeah, are you excited?
Yes. I've been
Let's.
waiting for this opportunity, to be honest, because there are so many of them who are trying to, or this field is upcoming. So it's really good to dip into it and just have a look at what exactly physiotherapy is about, and then you can just go about it from there.
Right. Actually, we can start with that. What exactly is physiotherapy?
Yeah. So
Because most of the times it's very confusing that is physiotherapy related to some massage side
yes.
or I
So
think you
just
get
yeah.
that a lot. Yeah.
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 So the first thing which people think about when we say physiotherapy is that, oh, you're going to give a release or you're going to go for a massage therapy or something like that. Now it is a part of physiotherapy, so I won't lie that massage is not related to physiotherapy at all, but there would be a small chunk of it which you would use, but it's not just about that. So that's one
Okay.
thing which I want to kind of, now I know that people are getting aware of that as well. So it's used in many aspects of rehab or even medical treatment. So it's not just musculoskeletal or muscle based or joint pain,
Okay.
but physiotherapy is also used in neurological cases like
Oh,
stroke, for example,
interesting.
or cardiac cases, like if someone had a surgery or like a wall replacement or something like that, or any kind of surgery would need physiotherapy after or even before.
Okay.
So which is something which people are not aware about. Even with hospitals, there would be surgeons sending out patients for pre-rehab, which is
Okay.
rehab before going for surgery,
Right.
or even post-rehab. So surgeons would do their job of fixing the joint or fixing a heart case,
Yeah,
or a brain
that's
surgery.
clearly it's not massage.
So,
Yeah, it's more than.
but yeah,
Yeah.
so we
Okay.
can go into that. Yeah.
Then, well, so everything starts from why you choose physiotherapy and how did you turn to being a doctor and then to physiotherapy. It's like very niche.
Yeah.
So how did it started? And yeah.
So basically, again, when we were doing our 12th and CET, we had CET during our time. We didn't have NEET or anything like that. So you have to go via CETs. And again, when we were told to shortlist or even think about what you want to do in future, it was always engineering or medical.
Medical, yeah.
It's always about that when you're in India, especially.
Right.
So I've seen many of them coming in physiotherapy if they don't get enough points or enough marks for MBBS.
Okay, so it's like a side route.
Yeah. But for me, it wasn't that.
Okay.
Because I had heard about how doctor field, like how medical field is. Like it's roughly around 7 to 8 years. You have to go for MBBS, which is easily 5 years, and then plus you have to do your MD. But nowadays, MD is not enough, so you have to go for super
Next.
speciality, which
Okay.
adds a couple more years. Then you have to have internship with those. residency with those. So you're not really, you would be earning after you kind of do MBBS, but then
Hmm.
it's never done. So there's
Yeah, you
always
have to
something.
keep.
Plus,
Hmm.
there won't be as much of a work-life balance in doc. I mean, some, I know. See, it's a
Yeah,
field where you have to
that's true.
dedicate
Yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
So
that's true.
so it depends on the person as well. But I
Hmm.
didn't want that.
Hmm.
So that's the reason why I found this field to be medical based, as
Hmm.
well as it would give me the chance to have my own work-life balance, enjoy my
Hmm.
passions or my hobbies
Hmm.
as well side by side.
Hmm.
My dad was a lot into sports,
Okay.
and that's where I get my inspiration from. So he kind of went around the world on a cycle. Is in mountaineering, he's into
Okay.
swimming. So, and one thing he mentioned after any of his expeditions would be that if
Hmm.
we had something like physiotherapy back then,
Hmm.
he would be able to do much more, because there's so many people
Hmm.
stopping or giving up their passions because they don't know how to get over it, and they
Okay.
don't know that it is possible to get over it. So
Okay.
that's one thing which kind of which drew me to this
Hmm.
field in the first
In
place.
in what sense? Like what to get over?
Get over the injuries. So, for
Okay.
example, if
Hmm.
someone had an ankle sprain or a back injury
Hmm.
after, cricketers have a lot of back injuries,
Hmm.
and I've
Hmm.
seen many of them dropping out of competitions or
Hmm.
any kind of sports because of that.
Hmm.
But they don't know that in spite of those injuries, it is possible to get back to that same level of strength or fitness.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
somewhere
So you
which we
can
would
bounce
like to
back,
intervene, and yeah.
and that's where physiotherapist
So it's
comes
not
into
just
picture.
about injury management, but we
Hmm.
also can help with injury prevention in the first place
Hmm.
and
Prevention.
performance enhancement in
Hmm.
sports side.
Hmm.
But as I said, my cliche is in musculoskeletal and sports, but there
Hmm.
are other aspects to physiotherapy like
Okay.
neurophysiotherapy and cardio as well,
Okay.
and community, like women's health after
Hmm.
pregnancy, post
Hmm.
pregnancy, those kind of situations as well.
Right.
So it's a very vast field.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I've seen, like, I did my research, so I know that you have been to Olympics and you were training Indian Olympic boxing
Boxing,
team.
yeah.
Sorry. So do you want to, like, what was that experience? Being That's a very huge achievement.
Hmm.
Training someone who is in Olympic.
So that was a really like surprising. I mean, I didn't expect that to happen in my life in the
Okay.
first place. Like no one would. So I did my bachelor's from Pune,
Hmm.
from PS Modern College, which is under MUHS,
Hmm.
which is around 4.5 years of bachelor's, and
Okay.
then I had a gap of a year where I worked
Hmm.
with a clinic, private clinic in
Hmm.
Andheri and in Mumbai basically, and
Hmm.
then I went for my master's for 2 years, which was in
Hmm.
sports. After that, my then boyfriend and my fiance, he was settled in Ireland. So I was
Hmm.
actually waiting for my visa to come in.
Okay.
So I never had a plan
Yeah,
of applying
we'll
for.
hold that thought. We'll come to that. So basically, you were doing all, like, you were based in India and everything was going well. Then you had this Olympics opportunity and everything, and then you decided to move
No, no, no. So
out.
I had already planned to move outside.
Okay, you were planning to move out,
So I had applied for my visa and stuff, but
hmm.
because of COVID, the visa thing got
And
cancelled.
so you're
And
planning for masters. Hmm.
so after 4.5 of bachelor's, I worked for
Hmm.
a year, and then
Hmm.
I wanted to. I was thinking of masters.
Hmm.
So the first thing which came to mind was New Zealand, Australia, because
Okay.
since my cliche was in sports,
Hmm.
I thought let's go for New Zealand first, because Australia had a really good scope, but it
Hmm.
was quite expensive,
Okay.
and getting a license to practice there was difficult as well because you had exams. So
Hmm.
I'd heard that New Zealand was good in that, so I started my research. I
Hmm.
started my documentation side by side
Hmm.
during that 1 year of practice after
Right.
bachelor's,
Hmm.
and that's when I found that it was not as easy to get a license to practice in New Zealand.
Okay.
So I had my IELTS ready, like I had
Yeah,
given the exam, I
everything.
had
Hmm.
all the
Hmm.
documents ready, the SOPs and all the documents.
Hmm. Hmm.
But since I found out that it's not going to make me help work as a physio that
Hmm.
easily,
Okay.
I didn't find the point of investing that much money just for the sake of going out. So I
Hmm.
dropped that plan.
Hmm.
And in the meanwhile, the clinic where I was working, the
Hmm.
head there was, he was starting a sports specialty physiotherapy course. And I
Hmm.
thought, let's go for that then. So that's
Okay.
how,
So you decided
yeah.
to
So I decided
stay,
to stay back
hmm,
rather than going in. So I
going
had
out,
everything
and
ready, but
yeah,
instead
yeah.
of investing that money,
Hmm.
if it's not going to give me the fruit,
Yeah,
then it
which
doesn't
actually
make
makes
sense.
sense. Yeah.
So yeah,
Right.
so that's when I decided to finish the sports masters in India itself. So I did my
Hmm.
masters from Navi Mumbai in MGM,
Hmm.
which is a really nice and intense course,
Okay.
and it helped me, scrape a little more deeper into different aspects of physiotherapy, which I
Hmm.
had not explored during my bachelor. So I highly
Okay.
recommend. after physiotherapy, it's I mean, people still think that, should I just do courses or should I go for masters? That's one more thing which in physiotherapy people
Okay.
think of.
Yeah.
And I would
Hmm.
highly recommend go for masters, because that
Okay.
definitely changes your perspective of how to treat patients.
Hmm.
And so,
But yeah, so but then you did the masters in India,
yeah.
and you were planning to move abroad,
Yeah.
either New Zealand or Australia.
Hmm.
Then how your course changed suddenly to Ireland? How what was that?
So my then husband, or sorry, my then boyfriend or fiance,
Okay. Okay.
he
Love
actually
story.
had, yeah, he had actually moved to Ireland just a couple of months
Hmm.
before.
Hmm.
And and then we thought, and he was still kind of exploring how Ireland was, and even
Hmm.
I started exploring then how this country
Hmm.
is and
Hmm.
how my scope there would be,
Right.
because we wanted to make sure both of us would be stable enough
Hmm.
for
Hmm.
work
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
because I didn't want the same situation like New Zealand to pop up here.
Right. No,
Because
no future scope, or
yeah,
you will invest so much and then you don't have
exactly.
any returns.
And I like my job, so I didn't want to give it up as well. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't want to change my field just for the sake of,
Yeah, moving abroad
yeah,
or
that's
hmm.
it.
Hmm.
So I thought, let's kind of dig into this. I tried getting in touch with people or physios here
Hmm.
to see how the process is and all
Hmm.
of that, but unfortunately there aren't as many physios here. When I started,
Hmm.
that's like 3 years back,
Hmm.
when I started applying
Hmm.
and doing my research. But I did find a couple of Indian physios from in
In
Ireland.
Ireland, okay.
So I tried getting in touch with them from Facebook and LinkedIn, because
Hmm.
that's the best place to kind of
Yeah,
literally
obviously,
search
yeah,
people
yeah. You
like
can
who are
connect with
here.
them. Yeah.
And I connected with them. They helped me with, just finding out what websites to go for, or
Hmm.
what's the process in the first place. So
Okay.
you need,
So, well, sorry for
yeah, yeah.
interruption, but I think then that brings to the process, right? So, you finally you had a reason that you eventually want to be together with your partner, and so because he was in Ireland, and then you decided to move abroad,
Yeah.
and then you're saying that you did some research.
Hmm.
So, what points were you considering at that moment, which which were like, okay, yeah, if I check this, if these boxes are ticked, then I'll move to Ireland, and that won't hamper my career or anything. So
So
what
since
was
my
that?
master's was in sports, I
Hmm.
wanted to see how the scope for musculoskeletal or
Hmm.
sports physiotherapy
Hmm.
was here. And as like I had a chat with my partner as well, and he was
Hmm.
like, sports is very much more kind of emphasized
Yeah.
here as compared to India.
Yeah.
So even like right from kids to even people who are working, like in
Hmm.
India, you wouldn't see many of the
Hmm.
working population playing
Playing
sports at
sports.
the
Yeah.
same time, but
Hmm.
here it's the other way around. So
Okay.
the health literacy, as I say, is very high in the
Hmm.
population in Ireland. That's what I found.
Hmm.
And that's why I felt that the scope for my field would be much more as
Much
well.
more. Hmm.
One more thing which I did was, Indeed, apparently, Indeed, the app
Okay.
is
Okay.
very much used here for job applications
Okay.
along with LinkedIn
Hmm.
for our profession.
Hmm.
And I tried going on that and seeing what kind of sport or what kind of positions were
Hmm.
demand, like what vacancies for.
Hmm.
And I found that sports physiotherapist and musculoskeletal had a huge demand. So
Okay.
I thought that that's a
Yeah,
good idea then.
that's good.
So
Okay.
that's when I thought that this seems to be a good country for
Hmm.
me as well,
Hmm.
along with him.
And is it is it like directly you can apply on your LinkedIn or the Indeed website which you mentioned? So you apply and then same like get an interview, get the job. Is it that,
Yeah.
or do you need any other certification or courses?
So the good thing about Ireland is that you don't need an exam most
Okay.
of the countries to get a license to practice. So
Hmm.
like engineers, like for engineers, you don't need a separate license to
Right.
practice.
Yeah.
But for medical field, you need a license to
License. Yeah.
practice in every
Yeah.
country, and
Yeah.
every country has its own medical licenses
Hmm.
and its way of testing them.
Right.
So US has an exam, for
Hmm.
example. Australia has its own exam.
Hmm.
So Ireland doesn't have its own exam. UK
Hmm.
doesn't have its own exam, but you
Hmm.
have to fill up a form. So there's
Okay.
an application process which goes kind of in depth in your profession, as in your courses, your graduation
Okay.
courses. So your
Basically
400,
your
yeah,
career history.
yeah.
Okay.
So whatever you've done in those your graduation course,
Hmm.
they kind of try and match up. That is that matching the capability of they're looking for.
Hmm.
So the hours of training which we had, they
Hmm.
try and compare that. Do you have that much of experience, that much of exposure or
Hmm.
training which they expect? And
Okay.
if that matches,
Hmm.
then it's good to go.
Okay. So it's not an exam, but you have to fill
Yeah.
give some information
Yeah.
about yourself
Yeah,
and
so
your
it's
back.
based on the transcripts, and so the college has a lot of role in
Hmm.
this, because
Hmm.
it has to be verified via the college as well. So it's a
Hmm.
bit tedious process, to be honest, and it's quite
Hmm. How long did it take?
So it took me a year and a half, to be honest.
Okay.
So it's a long
Seriously.
process, I won't
Okay.
lie, but see, I was in middle of COVID when I started the process, because
Yeah.
I knew that I was going
Hmm.
to get married maybe in a year or two.
Hmm.
So I thought, let's at least start the process and see how it goes.
Hmm.
And COVID, I think, added up 2 or 4 months in that, because it
Extra.
was
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
shut down
Sure.
during that
Hmm.
time. So the processes were slow.
Hmm.
So at least the good point was that during COVID they stopped posting stuff. So initially they had to post hard copies of your documents,
Hmm.
but now it was only online.
Online. Okay.
So which was the good part.
Okay.
But yeah, so you have to kind of mail them everything. So it's all online. You have to just fill up things
Hmm.
to get them verified through your college, and if
Hmm.
that's recognized, then you're fine.
Okay.
So,
And
and once you have that recognition, the license,
hmm.
then you can apply for Indeed.
What's the name of the license?
Koru. So
Koru.
Coru is
Okay.
the website through which you apply for your license.
Hmm. And
So
is it just so you go on the website and
yeah,
then
if you just
straight away
type
apply?
Koru, and then there will be many types of allied healths or medical professions given in the list. If
Hmm.
you just select physiotherapist in the Koru section,
Hmm.
and then they'll give you options. So
Okay.
there are two parts to this:
Right.
recognition and registration.
Okay.
Recognition is for international applicants like us, like from India,
Hmm.
because they're out of Ireland.
Hmm.
So if they haven't studied in Ireland, like the graduation, then you
Hmm.
have to first finish up recognition,
Hmm.
which is the most time consuming part.
Right.
And next is registration, which is just like e-vetting, or basically checking your background,
Oh,
like
background check, police.
police
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
verification,
Okay.
basically. Yeah.
And when so can you elaborate on the sections which you have to fill in the
In the
recognition?
recognition,
Yeah.
yeah. So the recognition mainly considers, do you have your Indian license? That's basically
Okay.
Indian Association of Physiotherapy.
Okay.
So I'm from Maharashtra, like I did
Hmm.
my from
Hmm.
Mumbai,
Hmm.
Maharashtra,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that is OTPT. So there is a council of OTPT. So
Hmm.
most of us would have OTPT license,
Hmm.
but they don't expect that. So they
Okay.
want Indian Association of Physiotherapy license,
Hmm.
which is yeah,
Recognized.
which is
Okay.
recognized
Hmm.
by them. So that's one. They also, the main things to focus on is your practice placements. Placements is, so every year we have
Hmm.
postings
Hmm.
for hospitals or
Right.
clinics.
Right.
That's how we get our exposure.
Hmm.
And we need to know, they literally need each and every postings details, like
Hmm.
what kind of
Where you
patients
were
we saw.
working.
So
Hmm.
the more you expand your placement section,
Hmm.
the better it is for them to approve, that they know that you
Okay.
have that exposure.
Right.
So the main part to emphasize in this is the practice placements.
It's kind of like a resume where you're adding
Yeah. So
everything
yeah.
about yourself experience
Yeah.
wise. Okay. And then you mentioned training hours. So how do you like how does
So they
that go?
have like a standard proficiency list on
Hmm.
their website on Koro itself. So
Hmm.
which gives you like around 1,000 hours of exposure is needed
Hmm.
throughout your graduation,
Hmm.
and those 1,000 hours are then divided into cardiorespiratory, neuromuscular, musculoskeletal. So
Okay.
it's all in depth there,
Right.
but it's given in the website. So
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
very
Hmm.
straightforward.
So just one question here around Koru is, so you said for physios it's Koru. Is it just for physios or anyone
So there would
or
be like audiologists, for example,
other
or
fields
yeah,
as
there
well?
are other
Okay.
allied fields as well, like social
Hmm.
healthcare and those
Hmm.
kind of fields.
Hmm.
Nursing has a different one. Nursing would not be Koru, but yeah. So everyone has
Most.
their own licensing
Okay.
processes,
Okay.
but Koru would be the main for allied health.
Hmm. And okay, so basically, if you want, so it's direct, you can work here if you get the license,
Yeah.
and you don't have to do any masters or
No.
anything.
So that's
Okay.
the best part. Like I've seen many of them coming here for masters,
Hmm.
thinking that they won't be able to come here if they don't have a master's, or if they don't have a license. So, for example, I came here on a spouse visa.
Hmm.
I was lucky enough because my husband was
Yeah.
already here. So
Yeah.
it
That's
was kind of,
that's a plus point.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I have friends, or I have colleagues as well, who have applied directly from India.
Hmm.
Like they did their graduation, they did their masters back home in India, or
Hmm.
maybe outside of Ireland,
Hmm.
probably. But in spite of having everything done outside of Ireland, it was
Hmm.
possible for them to get a job sitting outside Ireland. So they never had
Hmm.
to step in Ireland before, getting a job. So
Okay.
they literally applied online. They
Hmm.
got their Koru when they were working.
So that's the main part.
Yeah,
You have to
the
get your
Koru.
Koru done,
You
and
cannot practice here without a license. That's
yeah,
one thing.
I think
Yeah.
that's yeah. Okay. And you have to get the Koru, and then that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
So once you have the core, you can
Hmm.
straight away apply for jobs, and if they are happy with your online applications,
Hmm.
or the interviews online
Hmm.
which they
Hmm.
have,
Hmm. Hmm.
then they'll sponsor your visa for you. So you don't
Okay.
even need to depend on anyone. And
Right.
physiotherapy is on critical skills,
Okay. So you
so
can,
so
that
it's
would be
easy
easier
enough.
for
Yeah,
getting a PR.
PR as well.
Hmm. And do you think this market is growing? Like what is the what's the future scope for a physio in Ireland?
I think for medical industry, there's a huge lack in here. There's a huge demand for physios or any
Hmm.
kind of medical field, to be
Hmm.
honest, because most of the Irish people somehow are moving abroad to Australia, Canada,
Okay.
or US.
Okay.
So there is a huge demand for physios here.
Hmm.
There are physios who are working double shifts sometimes, or because
Hmm.
of the lack of physios here. So
Hmm.
they basically are deprived of physios. So I would definitely say that there
Right.
is a huge demand for physios or
Okay.
medical field right now.
Hmm. And how's the work culture?
Oh, it's absolutely,
Compare
yeah,
it
I
because
know.
you have worked in both the countries. So how would like how
So
is
in,
it?
in India, like my normal work hours were Monday to Saturdays,
Hmm.
and then since I was in sports,
Hmm.
the weekends would be for matches
Yeah,
sometimes.
sports
So
match.
it
Okay.
was basically,
You don't get
almost,
any day
yeah.
off.
So
Hmm.
there wasn't as much of work life balance, to be honest.
Hmm.
But again, if you enjoy your work, it doesn't
Then that's
matter.
fine. Yeah.
But after a point, you want your work life balance as well. Like
Hmm.
I was young then and I didn't have, like,
Hmm.
a partner or something like that.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
once you come into family life, then you want your own time or your own space as well.
Hmm.
That's what I found here. That
Right.
here it's mainly Monday to Fridays. Even if it's weekends working, they
Hmm.
would give you a comp off on the weekday. So even if
Okay.
you're working in the
Hmm.
hospital, for
Hmm. Hmm.
example,
Hmm.
they would require weekend shifts sometime, which is
Yeah.
fair enough
Yeah.
because it's in
That's
a hospital.
obviously yeah.
But you would get comp offs accordingly then.
Okay.
So your work
Yeah.
life
So if
balance
you
would be
have
fairly,
hmm.
yeah,
Hmm.
good enough, and would
Hmm.
be fairly compensated as well.
Okay. And so, but there's one more thing as well. Like you already touched that point that you don't have to really do masters if you are coming moving abroad. But let's say someone is graduated and they still want to pursue because that was the point as well. Like you go for masters so that you get more
Yeah.
experience and you get more knowledge,
Mhm.
in-depth knowledge about your field. So if someone wants to do that masters, is that a green flag? Like, okay, masters is done, and then I can straight away go and start practicing. How is that? Or
So
still you will be needing the
So again, I've
certificates?
seen this kind of myth or misconception with many of the physios coming in.
Hmm.
So I'm not really sure which consultant companies or which
Hmm. Yeah,
consultations
there's
are
many.
kind of guiding them here.
Hmm.
But there are some courses which I've seen which physios are adopting, like MSc in exercise physiology, and there are many
Okay.
universities
Okay.
offering that, and
Hmm.
it's a great course. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but the only thing is, they think that having this course done would
Hmm.
grant you easy access to getting the Kuru license,
Hmm.
but that's not the case
Okay.
because the Koro license is based on your undergraduate course.
Right.
So they are mainly considering how in depth was your undergraduate basic course
Hmm.
and how was your experience.
Okay. So
So your
they
masters doesn't
don't even
matter
con.
much
Hmm.
for your Koro license.
Hmm.
So even as I said, even if you don't have a master, I've seen so many of them getting your license without having a
With their
master's.
masters.
If
Okay.
you have your graduation, if you which was in depth and which is
Hmm.
covering the hours, if
Hmm.
you have your internship done properly, if you have your
Hmm.
experience after that,
Hmm. Hmm.
so just in case if some hours are missing from your graduation, they consider the experience then.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
not compulsory for you to have masters. It's
Hmm.
definitely an add-on.
Hmm.
It definitely gives you yourself a good exposure.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
But coming to Ireland, it doesn't mean that you have to have masters. You can
Okay.
have your own course done. So if
Hmm.
you genuinely want to do a master's course in
Hmm.
Ireland,
Hmm.
there are certain list of courses given on the Koru website which are
Hmm.
approved by Koru,
Okay.
which adds on to your
To
hours.
your okay.
But if it's not Koru approved or if it's not in that
Hmm.
list given on the Koru website,
Hmm.
then it won't add as much of a weightage.
Okay. So it's
So
irrelevant
it's
and
good for you to learn.
hmm.
Like as I said, the course is really
Yeah.
good, but it's not going to add on much in the Koru or
Yeah. So
licensing
if your
process.
goal is to get a job in Ireland as a physio or anything, that won't add it. So you are just doing for your own learning sake or whatever it
Yeah,
is. And but if you want to do this, then look for the courses which
yeah,
are approved by
yeah. By
Kuru
Koru, yeah.
and that's on their
On the
website.
website, yeah,
Okay.
they have given like an official list as well, which are approved by them.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, so mainly I'll
Hmm.
recommend that. Don't really
Hmm.
fall into fall into consultancies who would say that you have to do this course only then you'll be able to practice there.
Hmm. You can
Sorry.
directly yeah. Okay.
So yeah.
And one question was, what's the so for example, you said like there are hours and something. Did you know what's the minimum hour requirement or what
The
is the
1,000.
minimum experience required for that
You don't
to
necessarily
get
need
approved?
experience as such, as I said, even
Hmm.
on because the main thing they consider is your bachelor's course, which is
Hmm.
usually in India around 4.5 years. So if that
Okay.
course covers 1,000 hours of exposure, That mostly covers everything.
So if you are
Yeah.
doing a undergrad in India, so
Yeah.
that's done.
The only problem is that lately, like they've been very strict on how they are assessing the applications, and that's because the form is online now. So you have to make sure whatever you explain, it has to be in depth.
Okay.
So what people do is they just write it in 1 or 2 lines or 3 or 4 lines, and that's why they've been, getting a lot of queries from Koro.
Okay.
So the main kind of way to tackle this is make sure the placements or the explanations which you give has to be as much as depth as possible. That's the
Okay.
main thing.
So elaborate on your
Elaborate
experience
as much
and
as you
just
can.
don't
Yeah.
leave it to
Yeah.
two
So even your
sentence or
practice
something.
placements or postings, that as we say in India, those postings need to be in as depth as you can with every area, and that helps in them understanding the amount of exposure you had.
Okay.
So,
Does having a project like for masters you were working on your thesis and then you were working on that, does that count as an experience or
so
hours?
there is a section for adding your thesis part as well. That does contribute, but not as much as the hours which you have exposed. So they do
So
consider
mainly
that.
it's
Yes.
about the hours,
Yeah. So
and
it's
if you're
about the
doing your
practice
undergrads.
exposure. So how much of exposure you have. Most of the universities from India would get approved with the hours which they have. The only thing nowadays, as I said, is because of that online shift. When I applied, it was on Word. So I literally
Okay,
had to
Word
expand it.
document.
So I could add my own tables. I can keep expanding as much as I want. But that's not the case now because it's all online. But you
Right.
can go on Word and use the same things to go online and get it stamped via college or get it verified, that is, send it through mail via college. So that's where people are getting confused. So
Right.
that's something to look into.
Okay. And what's the usual process? So you said 1 year, right? So you fill the form and then
So
do you
you
get
fill the
a
form, you
inter?
fill everything, the details
Hmm.
which they've asked,
Hmm.
you submit it to the college.
Hmm.
To the
To the
Koro,
Koru,
to
yeah.
Koro. And college also has to verify those documents. By verify, I mean even if they send it through their official email to
Okay.
Koro, that's considered as verification.
Okay.
So if that's done, then it's in Koru's hand. So
Hmm.
Koru will go through your application. They'll see
Hmm.
if there's any missing documents or if there's any missing information, and they'll get back to you.
Okay.
Usually on the dashboard of the application, there'll be a missing information section they'll put up, and they'll keep kind of going to and fro. Like they'll keep asking you for information. You have to give whatever they're asking.
Right.
So as I said, to avoid all that, make sure you elaborate as much as you can in the first place, so that you don't
So
get
that there is
queries
no
back.
back and
Yeah,
forth.
and that kind of saves time, because
Yeah.
I think that's the most time-consuming part, where it's going front and back.
I think, yeah, that should be it, right? Apart from that, how's Ireland?
Ireland is great. Like as
Okay.
I said, you get a lot of work-life balance. So there are nature-wise, it's lovely. So I love hiking. I love a lot of outdoor sports and stuff. So I'm getting to
Sports
explore that a
video
lot.
also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we tried like windsurfing the other day,
Okay.
cliff jumping, or you can go for there's a lot of water around. It's literally an island.
Yeah.
So there are so many beaches around and so many nice hikes here to do. So for someone who's into adventure and outdoorsy kind of person, they'll love it here. There's
Okay.
also a lot of forest aspects if you want to go for trails and things like
Just
that.
walk
Yeah.
in the.
And Europe
Okay.
is close by, so
Yeah, you can just travel to Europe. Like, tomorrow I want to go to Paris, and you can just go. Also, do you any plans on going back to India?
uh, see, I love India. I loved working there.
Yeah.
But as I said, it's all about work-life balance, and so I do miss India, but I think I'm happy here
What
so
aspect of
far.
India do you miss a lot?
Food. I'm a huge foodie, so
Okay.
like me and my husband both, we're both foodies, so
Hmm.
we definitely miss that one big aspect, like the street food
Yeah.
is something we should miss here. Of course, we try and make as much as we can home,
Hmm.
but yeah, food is something, of course, and parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is the one thing that you love about Ireland, or you know that is what I mean.
I really like, I mean, the people here are
The
really nice.
yeah.
Yeah, that's because my professional this profession is a
Hmm.
very much people oriented profession,
Hmm.
and I see literally 10 to 12 new people every day, as in
Okay.
patients, because every
Right.
patient is going to be a new patient.
Yeah.
So and the amount of openness or friendliness they have is it kind of what keeps you here in a way. So you don't feel like an outsider as much. Like, I know I'm new here, it's just
Yeah.
been 3 years now, but it still doesn't feel like it's been 3 years. So the people make you feel included.
Okay.
So
I think it's always that when you are traveling, moving abroad to some country, then you are an immigrant.
yeah,
Neither you are a
yeah, you're
citizen of
not
India
here
nor
nor there.
here or there.
Yeah,
Yeah. But I think that's good.
yeah.
And you're saying that you're looking after 10 7 to 10 people daily on daily basis. So
Yeah, it sounds like a lot. See,
yeah.
it depends on every clinic, and usually clinics would have 30-minute sessions with
Hmm.
each patient.
Hmm.
So you have to be very much like time management wise, you have to
Hmm.
be really on, on top of time, because if you
Hmm.
have a busy day, if you go over like 10 minutes for the first patient,
Then
the
it
rest of the
goes on
patient
and
keep kind of,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
going over time. So you have to
Hmm.
be very much efficient with time management.
Hmm.
Even if they like talking, you have to make
Hmm.
sure you control on how much you want to interact
Hmm.
with them.
Hmm.
But at the same time, with physiotherapy, you have to ask questions and you have to know
Right.
the details and their
Right.
background as well. So it's all about time management. With experience, I think you get
Hmm.
that. So initially
Okay.
it might be hard for someone who's just starting off to finish off in 30 minutes. But
Hmm.
once you get experience, you know
Then you
what to
can.
ask. You don't need to ask all the 10 questions which were taught in the first place.
Hmm.
So you can ask those top 4 or 5 which I know are relevant to that,
Hmm.
and that how you save time and finish up patients as early as you can.
Okay. And like you're always dealing with patients, so there are goods and bads, like so is there a experience where you feel like okay, हाँ ये इसके लिए मुझे डॉक्टर बनना था and I healed that person, or you added some value to in that person's life and it completely changed their life? Is there any experience like that
So
which you are okay to
in this
share?
field, the biggest kind of feedback or the biggest positive of this field is that you get a lot of satisfaction in your work,
Okay.
because you see, and again in musculoskeletal especially, like
Hmm.
the field I'm in,
Hmm.
you see instant results.
Okay.
Because in neuro or cardio,
Hmm.
you see, you take a couple of days for the
Hmm.
patients to recover.
Hmm.
But in if someone came in with a neck pain this morning,
Hmm.
he couldn't really move his neck, but
Hmm.
within that half an hour session he was able to get back to the movement, and he felt so relieved with that. So that
Hmm.
feeling of him getting relieved with my hands, or
Yeah,
with that
with
one
your
session,
yeah, yeah.
so
Hmm.
that just gives you satisfaction of giving that person back
Hmm.
his peace of mind in a way, because
Okay.
many of them would be stressed with medical conditions, and
Hmm.
hearing things like I have a disc injury, that just kind of creeps in their mind. So it's
Hmm.
important for us to calm them down, make them
Hmm.
understand it's not nothing to worry
Hmm.
about. So those kind of things kind of help me out as well.
Hmm.
So
I think a lot of soft skills.
soft
You
skills,
need a lot
lot
of
lot.
soft. Yeah.
So physiotherapist is, it's all about, I think we had psychiatry and psychology in our course, so we
Hmm.
have to kind
Makes
of
sense.
mind them psychologically as
Hmm.
well, make them understand, because
Hmm.
pain is not always in the structure. It could
Hmm.
also be how your mind plays with it. So it's important for you to understand, or for the patient to understand, how to
Hmm.
kind of calm yourself down, how to
Yeah.
get over that as well,
Hmm. Yeah. I think you can heal most of your problems
just by
just by not thinking about
yeah.
them
Yeah.
and not worrying about them. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. And was there any weird experience or sad experience, if you're okay to share it
Yeah,
on the show?
see, there would be small. See, it's not always that all the patients are going to get healed, or all the patients are going to get
Hmm.
treated. For example, like I had this guy who had his marathon in 6 weeks, and he was training, day in day out, really nicely
Hmm.
for a full. That was going to be his first marathon,
Okay.
and he had a hip pain which started creeping up. But
Hmm.
we tried everything, but somehow it wasn't getting
Healed.
fixed as much.
Hmm.
So we had to send him off to a different direction, like just to get a more better opinion from an
Hmm.
orthopedic, for example.
Hmm.
So in those cases, you just feel a bit down sometimes, because I
Yeah.
wanted him to run that marathon, and that's the first
Yeah.
place why I kind of joined this field. So there would be
Hmm.
some instances where you kind of bring that home with you, that you feel
Hmm.
bad for not being able to help him out for
Hmm.
gaining that goal. So
Hmm.
there would be times when you would feel yourself
Yeah.
just a bit pressured with getting him back. Now he doesn't have any problem with it, like he
Yeah,
won't
he's
be
fine with
blaming
that.
us as
Yeah,
such,
yeah, yeah.
but still you feel bad because you take the responsibility of
Hmm.
that person after a
Hmm.
point. So
Yeah. It. Do you think that okay? Because just we'll take that example. So, for example, he wasn't able to do that, and then you have that in back of your mind. Does that things come home and like has it happened? And then what advice would you give? Like keep your like these instances would happen in your field, so keep them
yeah.
and don't let it affect your
Yeah.
personal life.
So
So
of course, I won't let it affect my personal life as such,
hmm,
but it just kind of stays in the back
stays
of
in
my
the
mind.
background. Hmm.
And how I try to kind of cope with it is that I read upon that thing, because you always have to get back with,
Yeah.
you always have to keep updating yourself.
Hmm.
So we also have something called CPDs, or continuous professional learning, so you have to keep
Okay.
learning.
Okay.
And that is needed for maintaining your license as well, by the way. So you need
Right.
to have those courses, or not just courses, but even discussions with your colleagues, or it could
Hmm.
be reading up cases or
Hmm.
reading articles
Hmm.
related to upcoming new
Hmm.
treatments or upcoming new therapies in that case.
Just to stay on top of the treatments and
So
everything.
just to see, is there anything new coming up, is
Hmm.
there any other way I can help that
Hmm.
person. So that's how it motivates me to kind of read up on that again, or just
Hmm.
brush myself again in that area to see if
Hmm.
there's something I'm missing out on,
Hmm.
or there's something I can help him better. So
Okay.
that's how I kind of get over
Yeah, and
myself.
you have to renew your Koru license
Yeah, so every year you have to kind
every
of,
year.
every year it has
Okay.
to be
So is it
renewed.
like
It's
how is it?
we just have to kind of pay money for that. So
Okay, just renew, and it's
yeah,
not the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
same tedious process as
No, no, no,
before.
no,
It's
no, no,
just
no.
renewal.
So once you get the license, you don't have to
That's done.
repeat all of the process.
Okay, that's
So
done
for the
then.
first
Okay.
part, I think when you actually apply in the first place, it costs around 300 euros for recognition and
Hmm.
100 euros for registration. So it's around 400
400
euros.
euros, which
So
is
it's
roughly 50,000 in Indian
45,
currency.
50,000,
45,
yeah.
50,000.
So
Okay.
you don't literally need to invest in a master's per se if you don't have a master's.
Hmm.
So you can, 50,000 euros, if you can get your
Yeah.
Koru, you
Yeah,
can
that's
simply just apply
cool.
for a
Yeah.
job and then
Hmm.
come in here.
What doing a master's course is nowhere near
Yeah.
15,000
So I
fifteen
think,
thousand euros, which is
yeah,
like 16, 17
yeah,
lakhs.
yeah.
So like you're paying 16 lakhs for masters, but the second way is you can pay 50,000, get your Koru
Rupees, yeah.
done. Yeah, rupees. Get your Koru done, and you're sorted.
Yeah,
You
and
can
you
directly work.
basically come in, you're earning in euros straight away.
Yeah, you'll be earning straight away. Okay,
So
that's
that's one thing I want people to
that's
know,
interesting.
because
Hmm.
even I didn't know about that,
Yeah,
and there are so many of them who still don't know about it. And I
but
want
it's
people to
yeah.
understand that
Hmm.
you can directly apply for jobs because there is a big market here. So
Hmm.
getting the Koru process is difficult, but as I said, you can share my LinkedIn profile, and
Hmm.
I've actually
Actually,
started a
that's a good
community.
initiative that you have started a WhatsApp group, which
Yeah,
we
so
were
I'm
talking
start I'm
recently.
trying to start a community as well. Like WhatsApp is
Hmm.
just for now because
Hmm.
we're not many people who I know,
Hmm.
but there are roughly around, I'd say, 20 or 20
Hmm.
25 of us
Hmm.
who are just coming in. Some of them are still kind of in process
Hmm.
of getting their Koru, so we're
Hmm.
helping each other. So those who
Yeah.
already have Koru, we're helping them out with filling the forms and stuff,
Hmm.
or if they need any help with information.
Hmm. So you are
So
trying to build a community where if anyone wants some information, so then the people who are already in Ireland can
yeah,
interact and something. Oh, that's a good initiative
yeah,
actually. Yeah. So yeah, I'll link the
yeah, yeah,
WhatsApp
yeah,
which you have.
definitely.
Okay. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'll link the WhatsApp group in the
Mm-hmm.
description, so anyone can join that
Yeah,
and ask their questions or
yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
is. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, feel free to connect with Oshin on her LinkedIn. Yeah, thanks for this conversation.
No problem. Thank you so much for
Thanks
the
for
reach out
having
as
me.
well.
Yeah, hopefully you build a good community and people are more aware
Mm-hmm.
about the process and everything. And yeah, all the best in your journey.
Thank
Yeah, see you.
you.